Hi coaches and athletes, Coach Kevin here. Today I'm going to show you a superset that is going to make a ton of power in your freestyle arm pulls. This is something that's critical for anyone that's working on dropping time in that 50 free, 100 free, 200 free, and there are also benefits for you distance freestylers focusing on the 500 and up. But it's going to have a much bigger impact on you sprinters and especially even distance swimmers swim in relays, so everyone might as well get that power in their freestyle. It's going to be a combination of exercises that work out your shoulders, your lats, your triceps, and just get you that power throughout that entire range of motion for every step of that stroke cycle. I'm also going to show you a progression of one of the exercises. I think you're really going to like this, and it has to do with the pulling for freestyle. And this progression, as you get good at it and you're able to do the most advanced version of it, is going to give you some results that are going to be much better than the traditional pulling exercises I've seen swim teams do. Now, disclaimer, these are pretty complicated. I really recommend having your coach kind of help you with this, even if it's virtual through Zoom or something like that, just so they can see you doing it and giving you feedback. Just like all these exercises you learn online, if you're able to get a little bit of direct feedback, you're going to make sure that form and that technique is correct, reducing the risk of injury and getting better results from it. So make sure you look down below in the comments, because that's going to have a list of the exercises that we're doing to help you keep track of this when you go to do it on your own. Before you get started, you want to make sure you have all your equipment set up and ready to go. Because we're doing supersets, you want to be able to jump from one exercise right into the next with very little downtime. You know, usually 10 to 15 seconds is the most you want to take from one exercise going into the next one, and that just keeps your heart rate up, helping develop that cardio base. So I'm going to set up 2 bands to a door anchor, each with a handle on the end of it, and that's going to be for some internal A's, some tricep extensions, and my pull down motions. And this can either be done with pink or red bands. I'm just going to go on the easy side since I'm demonstrating. And then for the side raises and the vertical press, you're just going to use the band without any attachments. And this you're going to use either the yellow or the pink. And the yellow can be pretty challenging, so very few of you are going to need to progress to the pink, because there is a way you can add resistance onto the yellow band to make it harder, not having to jump up the bands right away. And those are just those micro adjustments. If you check back on some of my other videos, I'll put some links to them below. It covers what you can do to make those micro adjustments. And I want you to notice a couple things with these bands, right? So this is a power band. It's not a traditional style band. And these resistances I have custom designed to match the exercises that I'm teaching, allowing athletes to progress through and just get stronger and stronger without having resistances jump too much from one to the next. It's also important that the bands stretch enough. So to have enough resistance at the end of your arm pull, you need to make sure that you've got just the right resistance to be able to travel that full range of motion, but still have resistance at the beginning of it at the same time. And that's why these small increments of increasing resistance work so well. So now let's go ahead and move on and get started learning those exercises. We're going to start doing exercises for our shoulders. And this is going to give us that strength and speed to swing those arms up and reach nice and long into the water. I'm going to step on the inside of each power band. And because I'm using the yellow ones, and that's not quite enough resistance for me, I'm going to add an extra loop at the bottom of each one. There is a previous video that shows how to do this with an up-close view and a better description, so make sure to check out the video that shows how to set things up. A key part to this is I'm going to cross the bands. I'm going to make this X in front of me. That's going to give me an angle of resistance that's going to be much better and much more applicable to how I need to move those arms forward for freestyle. Additionally, I'm going to hinge my hips back a little bit and lean forward. I'm going to turn my thumbs forward so my wrists are like this. And then as I come up, I'm actually even going to let my thumbs turn just a little bit up toward the ceiling, not much. And that's just going to open some space in my shoulders that help prevent impingement issues. And you do not want to go past your shoulders. This is as high up as you should go and then back down. So from the side, you can see how I'm hinging forward just a little bit. And that's going to give me a better usage of my back muscles for bringing that arm up. And you can see my thumb, right? It just tilts slightly up when I get toward the top, helping to open that space, reducing the stress on my shoulders. Something that is very important for swimmers, because that's one of the most common swimmer injuries. So little things like that make a big difference. And that's why I encourage you to have some kind of coaching guidance throughout everything. The next exercise is going to be a vertical press. So I'm going to hold on to the same side band, and I'm going to turn my hands like this and bring the bands behind my arms. And then from here, I'm just going to lift my arms straight up and then squeeze my shoulders together so that my arms touch the back of my head. As a swimmer, that last part is very important. The traditional shoulder press typically only goes up to there. But as swimmers, we're used to hyperextending our arms out and reaching. So we want to get used to that. And you don't have to connect your hands at the top like a streamline. So if I lower myself, you'll see what it looks like at the top. You can just do that, and that's fine. Some people do like to overlap the hands, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But just so long as you squeeze those arms up. So now we're going to move on to our internal A's. This one is going to give you power at that follow through to get that arm up and out of the water before it comes forward and reaches up. So you're going to use the bands that are hooked up to the top of the door. So I've got my door anchor up here. I've got two separate bands hooked up to that door anchor, each of them hooked up to one of my handles. And my thumbs are going to point in toward each other. I'm going to bring my arms out just a little bit away from my body. Just enough so that my thumbs aren't hitting my sides as they're sticking out. Notice my shoulder blades are back and I have good posture. It oftentimes helps to look up a little bit as you do this. So, as far as the width of your hands go, it looks kind of like this. Your hands are in front of you, and then you come out, and like I said, your thumbs are going to almost be touching your sides, but not quite. And that's going to be right where you're going to be at the end of that follow through, right before your hand swings forward, giving you more power in that part of the pull. Now we're going to do tricep extensions with that same resistance. And again, you can always adjust resistance by moving closer or farther. So I'm going to kneel down on the floor, and I'm going to angle my spine through the top of my head right at that anchor point. So you see how my head points, the top of my head points right to that anchor point. And then I'm going to look up a little bit for good posture, and I'm just straightening out my arms, keeping my elbows perfectly at my side. And again, this helps strengthen that follow through at the end of your arm pulls. And so if that's not enough resistance, right, I can scoot back a little bit. But now notice, right, I want to angle my spine toward that anchor point. So I'm going to have to lean forward a little bit more if I scoot back. And it's typically good to pick that resistance band where at the beginning you have resistance, but you can still follow through that full range of motion. So now on to those freestyle pulls, and this is where I'm going to teach you 3 versions of it. That's going to be a progression because that third version takes a lot of coordination and a lot of figuring out to get good at. So I'm going to start you out with something that's a little bit easier and then work to that harder, more complicated one. So with freestyle, we have a body roll. So we want to make sure that the arm that's pulling is going to be rotated forward. So I'm going to do single arm freestyle pulling, and what helps with that rotation is I'm going to stagger my feet. So the foot that is the right side of my foot with the right hand forward, And then my left foot goes back a little bit, helping me to rotate that direction. Again, I lean forward toward that anchor point, and then as I pull, I'm going to rotate the other way, just leaving my arm at the side. All right, see how I have that good rotation, hitting the same angles as I would as if I'm in the water actually swimming free. Now, a lot of people are used to using like the paddles to pull on, and those aren't necessary. So think of it kind of like some of the hand paddles in the water, say the ones that only your thumbs go in, or the ones that only hold onto your fingertip, or middle of your finger. If you're doing it correctly, the resistance is going to hold it onto your hand. So I like this because it's going to force you to have the correct angle, pulling at the correct angle, keeping that handle in place instead of being mostly attached to your hand. And that just helps with technique. Now we're going to do an alternating double arm. And this is one where you need 2 individual bands to do this, which is why I have it designed this way for my kits. This one you can't get as much shoulder rotation into it, so it's going to be a little bit flatter. I'm going to get my arms all the way up. I'm just going to pull down with one arm, and then as that arm comes up, pull down with the other. And this is good for more of that sprint straight arm type technique. So I've got just a slight shoulder roll, but I'm mostly flat. And there's going to be some variations too based on what your coach wants you doing with your technique. Right? Some swimmers are going to use more of that high elbow catch and be closer to their body. Some swimmers are going to want to be a little bit farther out with a little bit less of that bend. And that just depends on where your strength is at and what kind of technique is going to work best for you. Now time for that last progression of this freestyle pull. And this one gets a little bit tricky with the technique, but it's going to give you awesome results. The feedback I've gotten from my swimmers has been outstanding. They really feel those muscles getting hit in just the right way. And the ones that were getting back in the water and in the pool are also seeing those results. This one is also a single arm version, but you are going to add a second arm without using the band. So you should first be comfortable doing that one where you just rotate into it, right? And now we're going to add arm movement. So this arm's going to come up as that one goes down, and then this one's going to go through the pull down motion as the band is going to go through that eccentric return. So it's important that this one's going down and then reversing that motion back up, where the other arm goes through that full freestyle rotation. And you can see how I get that good body roll in there, hitting the angle, matching those muscles that are used when I'm actually swimming freestyle. And I would like to thank Alex, one of my swimmers, who just messing around kind of came up with this version of it. And after seeing him do it, I was like, let's see how that feels. Tested out myself, felt excellent. Did it with some other swimmers. They all really liked it. So now this is going to be a staple of my normal training. So I hope you really liked it, and make sure you subscribe and click like below, and I will see you back again. So be strong and be elite.